experts exposing all of this. Roger Stone. Roger, do you think she'll take me up on it? Do you think Webster Hubbell's daughter will take me up on it?
Well, I think a lot of people need to realize, Alex, is those who say, oh, you're picking on a child. Chelsea Clinton is a 30-year-old adult, based on reports published in the New York Post and elsewhere. She's very much like her mother, abusive, foul-mouthed, greedy, entitled, and not terribly bright. Of course, Bill and Hillary have kind of left her holding the bag because she's an officer of the Clinton Foundation. She's on the documents filed with the IRS, and therefore she's legally culpable for the numerous crimes that have been committed there. The Clinton Foundation, as you know, is not a charity. It's a slush fund for grifters. And it's been the vehicle for multi-million-dollar bribes and influence peddling. And Chelsea is actually thinking about running for Congress in a district just north of New York City that is held by Congresswoman Nita Lowey. I'm told that if she really runs, Danny Williams, the abandoned son of Bill Clinton, who currently lives in Arkansas, but could move into that district certainly in time to run with an eye towards the 40% African-American vote in the Democratic primary. So it could be an epic clash of the offspring of of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton.
Sure, well, she just got told again.
They're not brother and sister, Alex, because they do not share a common father.
That's right. Let's expand on that. I mean, let's talk seriously. She's obviously Webster Hubbell's daughter. I've been hearing that for 22 years from the folks locally. It was well known. But what's your intel on it? But I mean, he has striking, probably, I don't mean this as a funny thing, but he looks like he has birth defect type genetics that is very rare and very expressive. I mean, this looks like he has some type of genetic disorder, and it appears that that genetic disorder, whatever it is, has been passed on. These are strikingly, nuclear fallout victim features.
Well, I think it goes beyond just the physical resemblance between Webster Hubbell and his daughter. First of all, there is the fact that L.D. Brown, who was a personal bodyguard and driver for Bill Clinton, says that Clinton told him that he read about Hillary's pregnancy in the newspaper. Secondarily, there is the fact that the World Net Daily contacted Mr. Hubbell, asked him point blank if he was Chelsea's father, whereupon he said no comment, and he hung up. No denial. It is also true that Larry Nichols said that Hillary Clinton was overheard saying, if I have to do Webb Hubbell to get into the Rose Law Firm, I will do so. Also in Hillary Clinton's own book, she says that a large football player-sized man taught her the proper way to hold a baby. That doesn't sound like Bill Clinton to me.
Well, but they're striking. I mean, it's like if somebody had a genetic disorder where they're like, or missing their teeth or don't have a nose. I mean, I don't mean to make fun of her, but she is such a monster, such a pig. I mean, she's in the emails, talking about dying people and how they're killing people, and she didn't do anything about it. So I'd like to...
And as you know, Alex, she's had multiple plastic surgeries in an attempt to minimize her resemblance to her father. So look, she is clearly, the Clinton Foundation is still in existence. The Clinton political machine is still in existence. And just as Hillary's having a hard time getting off the stage with her selective memory in that performance at Wellesley. In all honesty, in a perfect world, when Hillary Clinton came down off the platform at Wellesley for giving the commencement address, she should have been handcuffed by federal marshals, because it's time for Jeff Sessions to convene a grand jury and examine the criminal activity of the Clinton Foundation. John Podesta, Tony Podesta, what they were doing with the Russians, what they were doing with the oligarchs around Russia.
Hold on, let's talk about Comey coming up and take a few calls. I promise with it, I'll let you take over, Roger Stone, so you'll have your own show 5 days a week, so it won't matter when I'm cutting in, because there'll be too much time for me to even be able to do that. But since we're talking about Chelsea Hubbell Clinton and the new contest, $1 million for her if she'll get a paternity test, I thought we should actually hear from her under the fairness doctrine and actually hear a statement from her. Here it is.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed.
That horse could be $1 million richer.
I was about to say, the horses are beautiful, but it's actually on the show and they give it peanut butter or whatever, and its lips goes, oh, Wilbur. Because I was fascinated by Webster Hubbell in the 90s because he was always testifying in Congress about some scandal. And it was like, only thing that moved was his bottom lip. He'd go, in fact, guys, YouTube or go to C-SPAN's own archive, just type in Webster Hubbell testifies. And it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. It made me believe David Icke, there's like reptoids running things. I don't really believe that. But seriously, I don't mean to make fun of people the way they look usually. Then we're going to go to Jason in Germany and John in Illinois, and I'm going to get out of here and let you take over. But what is going on with Webster Hubbell? I mean, what is this guy's deal?
Well, I think it's very important. He's the guy who does the dirty work for the Clintons. He's the Deputy Attorney General of the United States under Janet Reno. He's supposed to be Reno's manager. Hillary Clinton selected Janet Reno. Janet Reno acted on Hillary Clinton's orders. Hillary Clinton is the one who orders Janet Reno to launch the assault at Waco. And it is Webster Hubbell who transmits that order. Hillary to her lover, Hubbell, the father of her child, to Janet Reno. And as you know, as many as 18 children under the age of 8 die in that conflagration, that unnecessary confrontation.
But it was liberal, so it's okay.
Well, it is horrific, the brute force that the federal government uses on these on these outcasts, and the disinformation about them abusing children and so on. They killed 18 children under 8 in a firefight. Who stands up for children? Who's an advocate for children? Hillary Clinton murders children. There you have it.
Man, Webster Hubbell is so weird. That's a side shot they got straight on in Congress testifying. It is unbelievable.
That's what Chelsea looks like when she talks too. And she has the same forehead and everything.
Yeah, it's that whole rubber lip thing.
Whole rubber face even.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It looks like a rubber mask.
Yeah.
I'm not making fun of the fact that they look like cavemen or something. I don't know what's going on.
Well, and just look at if you just look at the two families just on the table right here, say, here's the Clinton family versus the Trump family. Here's the Trump family, good people, hardworking, building things, prosperous, tight family, together, have each other's back. Then you have the Clinton family. You have a son who's besmirched from the family. He's not even allowed to exist. They completely deny Danny Williams' existence. Then you have Chelsea Clinton Hubbell, who's actually not even the son of Bill Clinton. So there's the Clinton family, a complete nightmare, a complete disaster, not what you want your family to be like, versus the Trump family, which is more like what you would want your family to be like.
And the bigger thing is they're constantly robbing everything. Old folks, pension funds, land, Haitians. They're just a group of disgusting filth. Roger Stone is hosting right now, but he was a little bit late, so we took over. He's with us. He's going to break down Comey here in just a couple minutes. Right now, John in Illinois, then Jason in Germany, and we'll be out of here. John in Illinois, go ahead, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Roger. I was actually calling about something that's been bothering me these past few months. We've been watching the Muslim extremists running over the West and its values. So if you're like me and you've been getting mad at this is your chance to do something about it. This Saturday, June 10th, Act for America is having a march against Sharia, and we need everybody there. The lefties are going to be counter-protesting. You know, they're probably going to bring the black bloc and start getting violent or whatever, which is why we need people there with cameras, documenting, observing, and just, acting for America, for American values.
Wow, that's something we need to cover just to show how these scumbag communists are on the side of people, who like literally cut women's genitals off and
looks
throw.
Like there's one in Austin. If you guys could zoom in on that map, it looked like they had one in Austin.
Oh, really? The March Against Sharia?
Yeah, March Against Sharia. It's by Act for America. It's an organization started by Bridget Gabriel, who was born in Lebanese, and she's Middle Eastern. Her family were Christians, and they were driven away from their own country because of Muslim extremists in the 80s. So she came over here, and she's just a great patriot now, standing up for American values. And, you know, these are the types of people we need to support. And it's not even about race. It's not even about
sure, it's about a cult-like ideology. It's about a cult-like ideology. All right, we'll look into it. I've heard of the group. Very interesting, great point. Anything else, John?
Just one more thing. I like Trump. I like what he's doing. But I just want to say that I don't like the arms deal with Saudi Arabia, and we need to support Rand Paul's blocking of that deal because mark my words, those weapons are going to land in the hands of ISIS and are going to end up killing American citizens. And Trump his legacy will be destroyed because of that. So
I hear you. It's a good point. Let me get Roger Stone's take on that because I see what Trump doing. He just wants gross numbers to get the economy going. Saudi Arabia got fighter bombers and high-tech missiles. I don't disagree with the caller totally, but that's not going to get in the hands of ISIS. And it's seen as a deal to get them to stop, you know, trying to use civil war to take down Iran, but to give them weapons to stand up against Iran in case Iran attacks. But Roger Stone at the time said it made him sick to watch that. He still likes Trump, but that did make him sick. Roger, your take on that?
Yeah, I want to be very clear. What made me sick, Alex, was the photograph of the president bowing to the Saudi king. If the Saudi king wants to give our president a medal, he can stand on a soapbox. In other words, the president's handler should never have allowed him to be seen that way. He did not bow to the Saudi leaders when he first met them, as Obama did. His genuflection was polite, but nothing outrageous.
Well, he curtsied so he could get it over his head.
This was a bow, and it shows obsequience, and that photograph is now used in the Islamic world as propaganda. I understand why the president feels that he must play off the Saudis against Iran. Right now, a nuclear Iran is a greater problem. Not to say that he trusts the Saudis, not that he doesn't understand their transgressions. So this is high stakes, you know, brinkmanship. This is Nixon-style foreign policy maneuver. But I tend to agree that the Saudis, who clearly have a role in the attack on 9/11, ultimately have to be held accountable by this president. Both houses of Congress have passed legislation that, as you know, Alex, would require them to pay the families in New York who were successful in bringing a lawsuit. They resist that. So it's a delicate balance. Overall, I approve what the president did in terms of utilizing the Saudis in this chess game with Iran. On the other hand, they have to pay up ultimately, and I think the president knows that.
Absolutely, but pulling us out of the climate deal, all of it's amazing. Last caller I got time for because Stone's got big news on Comey, the inside scoop. I shouldn't even be cutting in here. Jason in Germany, but I promise to go to your calls. Jason, you're on the air.
Thank you, Alex. I have 1 minute probably or two, and I probably need more like 10, but I'll try to go real fast. First, a little bone to pick with you. I know you guys are super busy, but it's been 2 weeks since I submitted my article to you, and I haven't heard back from anybody. I really need I need somebody to look at that article because it's 100% Veritas. I know that's what you're into.
I know we're trying to get a bigger crew to get more articles from you guys, and we're trying hard. What was the title of the article so we can search it in our email?
Okay, it's called "Can Trump Save Himself and Us Too?" It's got my name and in the subject line as well.
You can tweet that at me. If you tweet it at me, I can try to find it.
Yeah, one thing to do is find your own place and post stuff. That's the better way to get it to us too. But go ahead.
Actually, I posted on an anonymous site, and they classified it as hate speech and took it down. I couldn't believe it. There's nothing hateful about it. Real quick to my second point, and I'm speaking totally from my heart here, Alex. I know this is something you can totally relate to when you have the understanding of complex issues that nobody else seems to have, and you can actually articulate it in a way that other people can understand. I believe that I have the zeitgeist of what Americans want and need, and I believe that if Trump will give it to them, he will win. And I can prove this going back through all my tweet history. In fact, it's so weird that just recently the fallout with Trump and Sessions is hitting, and literally a couple weeks after Sessions came on.
Sure, you've called. Stone agrees with this. He really shouldn't be, put marijuana smokers in prison for 1,000 years. He really should decriminalize. Doesn't mean we agree with the whole marijuana culture. I appreciate your call. Real quick, Roger, take over. Your take on Trump and the marijuana.
Well, I just wish Jeff Sessions would focus more on Susan Rice and the illegal monitoring of Americans by the NSA, and less on a victimless crime, marijuana. That's what I thought we appointed Jeff Sessions for, and he's been less than aggressive on the president's behalf.
Straight ahead, Roger Stone is in the catbird seat, breaking down the Comey hearing tomorrow.
We're on the march.
I'm your host, Roger Stone, sitting in for Alex Jones and Owen Schroyer, who's obviously trying to do the young Abraham Lincoln thing. All Washington is, of course, focused on the coming shootout at the OK Corral, the classic clash between James Comey, testifying before Congress, and Donald Trump, sitting at his Twitter feed. This has the potential to be mesmerizing as both sides gear up for battle. Mr. Comey is widely expected to accuse the president of impeding the investigation into General Flynn and asking him to end it. If Mr. Comey wants to talk about obstruction and he wants to talk about memos, because it is alleged that he wrote a memo, according to the New York Times, he received a memo, according to the Times. He believed the memo to be real, and that memo alleges obstruction at the highest level of the Obama administration. Now, the memo has been since proved to be a forgery, but Mr. Comey believed it. Therefore, he thought there was an obstruction of justice. He did not report this as an officer of the court. Instead, he furthered that obstruction. This would, of course, explain why his comments about Hillary Clinton were so caustic, yet he reached a conclusion that was the result of a political fix above him. To me, this shreds any credibility regarding Mr. Comey. Mr. Comey alleges to the media that he has contemporaneous memos written to himself saying that the president was impeding justice. Why then did he not report these as an officer of the court? Why are we only learning this now? The acting attorney general, Mr. Rosenstiel, in this matter, says that there is no evidence of collusion by Donald Trump and his associates. Perhaps the president asked him to wrap up the investigation of General Flynn, because based on what we have seen so far, while General Flynn may have done some things that were inadvisable, perhaps even stupid, they didn't constitute crimes, nor did they constitute collusion with the Russian state. Trump can only win the shootout tomorrow with an offensive strategy. I remind you of Stone's rules. Attack, attack, attack. Mr. Comey has plenty of his record to attack. HSBC, the international bank, is caught money laundering hundreds of thousands of dollars for the drug industry. Mr. Comey ensures that they pay a hefty fine, but no one goes to jail. Thereupon, Mr. Comey goes on the board of directors at HSBC. How much was he paid? He also is associated with the various interests, including Lockheed, which is without any question the most corrupt company and defense contractor in the country. They have enormous, egregious violations of law and cost overruns. Again, no one goes to jail. Their problems are all worked out, and they pay fines which they can well afford. And then they pay Mr. Comey $6 million. The fact that James Comey was the prosecutor in the Sandy Berger affair. You remember Sandy Berger? He was Bill Clinton's national security advisor. He slipped into the National Archives. He talked a docent into leaving the room because he said he had to take a classified, super secret cell phone call. He then stuffed documents down the front of his pants, that proved that Bill Clinton could have taken out Osama bin Laden, but didn't. The prosecutor in this case, James Comey, the charges brought, none, covering for the Clinton crime family. Then there's the Mark Rich matter. You remember Mark Rich? He was an international fugitive from justice, a man who'd stole hundreds of millions of dollars. He funneled huge million-dollar contributions to the Clinton Foundation through his wife. He skipped the entire pardon process, only to receive a pardon at the last minute from President Clinton. Now, James Comey had actually been the prosecutor in the Mark Rich case, and then he was appointed to oversee whether there had been any impropriety of Mr. Comey's purchase, Mr. Rich's purchase of a pardon, and again, no charges were brought. Who can forget that Mr. Comey emerged in the beginning as an assistant director of the Whitewater inquiry? Whitewater is a complicated real estate transaction in which no one really makes money. But Bill Clinton is able to extract $850,000 to finance the media blitz that returned him to the governor's mansion after losing in the previous election. That sets the stage for his election as president of the United States. Jim and Susan McDougal, friends of the Clintons, take the fall. McDougal goes to prison and dies there when denied the medication he needed for survival. And Susan McDougal refuses to testify against the president and is temporarily jailed. Mr. Comey assures that no charges are brought against the Clintons. So this FBI director, call him J. Edgar Comey, if you will, had become a law unto himself. He would decide what crimes he would investigate and what crimes he would not. It's important to note when Senator Chuck Grassley, who's the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, asked Mr. Comey about the fraudulent memo which claimed obstruction of justice by Loretta Lynch and the Clinton campaign, Mr. Comey declined to discuss it. The New York Times tells us that there was widespread belief within the FBI that the document in question was a forgery. Yet Mr. Comey chose to embrace it and based his decision not to prosecute Hillary Clinton on the basis of this memo. This, to me, should be a crux of the attack on his credibility. He has no credibility. He is a political animal who has, without any question, politicized the FBI. Speaking of the FBI, we have a new director, Christopher Wray, a close associate of current New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. I had hoped that the president would pick somebody who is outside the political system, someone who is not inherently political. Frankly, his ties to Christie are troubling. Christie is among those drug warriors who want Jeff Sessions to step up his attack on marijuana instead of attacking the Democratic Party for the surveillance and violation of the Constitution when it comes to spying on Americans, or those who have leaked in the furtherance of the phony Russian collusion claim. Meanwhile, the NSA announces that they've doubled down in their efforts to find some link between Donald Trump and the Russians. What does that tell me? It tells me that they have nothing. You notice that the conversation shifted between Russian assistance for Donald Trump before the election and whether Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, had a back channel to the Russians after the election. Such a back channel would, of course, be perfectly legal. Barack Obama had a back channel to Iran. Richard Nixon had a back channel to China. By that we mean not going through the Central Intelligence Agency, not going through the State Department. It's completely reasonable that the president would have a concern that any dialogue with the Russians through the bureaucrats and neocons inside his government would result in leaks. The president has the right to conduct foreign policy as he sees fit. I've been a critic of Jared Kushner, but to hang him, to declare him guilty on the basis of conversations after the election with the Russian government, well, that would just be wrong. Mr. Kushner should have his day in court, as should General Flynn. But so far, even Dianne Feinstein and that ubiquitous tower of mush, the ambitious, whining Adam Schiff of California, who is, I think at this point, most people realize that in Washington, D.C., the most dangerous place to be is between Congressman Adam Schiff and a television camera. He has consistently claimed evidence of Russian collusion, only to admit on April 2nd that he has seen no such proof. He has lied repeatedly about my relationship with Guccifer 2.0, not a Russian asset, and an exchange that's now entirely public and meaningless, and my contacts indirectly to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. Assange is a journalist. He gets information from sources and he publishes it. Some argue that he's committed a crime because he, in some cases, has published information which has been purloined and sent to him. Perhaps these people should study the Pentagon Papers case. Documents were stolen from the Nixon administration that documented the origins of the Vietnam War. They were published by the New York Times. Thus, the New York Times published stolen material for the benefit of the people and in the interests of a free press. The courts held that the publication of the New York Times of this information could not be blocked. What's the difference between WikiLeaks and the New York Times, or the Washington Post, or the Record of Bergen, or any other newspaper in the country? It is a slippery slope when we begin to prosecute or threaten journalists and demand that they reveal their sources. This entire attack has been a fabrication of Mr. Schiff and Senator Warner and John McCain. Meanwhile, John McCain may have some answering of his own to do. He met with Oleg Deripaska, an oligarch close to Putin. He was specifically contacted and warned by the intelligence agencies that Deripaska was an associate of Putin and was working for the furtherment of the Russian state. Senator McCain chose to meet anyway with Mr. Deripaska. I would like to know what the senator discussed. I would like to know if Senator McCain solicited Mr. Deripaska for multi-million-dollar contributions for the International Republican Institute, a front group controlled by Senator John McCain. I'd also like to know why key staffers at the Institute would later be identified as Soviet moles and would ultimately be discharged, despite the fact that they were hired by John McCain. So I'd say that Senator McCain has some answering to do on his own. He famously said on television, Roger Stone should come before the Congress and explain his ties to the Kremlin and to Mr. Yanukovych, referring to the former Ukrainian president. Well, let me break this down for you, Senator. I have no contacts whatsoever with the Kremlin, with the Russian state, with Putin's gulag. I did not work for Mr. Yanukovych. I worked in one election cycle against him for a pro-Western candidate. Now is as good a time as any to remind you that we at InfoWars are under siege from the tech left who seek to cut us off at the knees. And this is the best reason I can think of to support the Infowars.com store. I particularly like this new Z-Shield toxic medical and chemical defense support formula, quite simply because there are countless studies that show our food, our water, our air is loaded with toxic metals and chemicals that are weakening our immune systems and playing havoc with our long-term health. Even the EPA has admitted over 800 million pounds of pesticide are dumped in the U.S. every year, and 80% of these pesticides are used on crops. It's virtually impossible to avoid all of these metals and chemicals, which are really poisons. Thanks to InfoWars, a team of doctors and PhD herbalists and chemists spent years testing and developing a proprietary technology used by Z-Shield to cleanse the system. These organic ingredients are known to support the body in the fight against these toxins, and you're using all natural products like cilantro, shiitake, milk thistle, and other super concentrated, all natural products. This is one of the best products you can buy on the market, and I strongly urge you to go for the win-win. You can get an extraordinary product which will help strengthen your immune system and lead hopefully to greater health. At the same time, you can join the fight for freedom. You can help us fight the tech left. You see, they have multi-millions of dollars, the Googles, the Amazons, the Yahoos, the Facebooks, the Twitters, to censor us, to shut us down, to silence us. We have only you and your help to fight against the tech left. The interesting fact is that the net neutrality rules, which are currently before the FAA, which are not a guarantee against censorship, which are not what they purport to be, which are censorship, 235,000 emails arrived at the FAA advocating the passage of Obama's rules. We now know every one of them came from outside the United States. A colossal David Brock screw up, busted. Your whole AstroTurf attempt to cram down our throats rules that give you a monopoly on the internet, and you are busted. I'll be right back at InfoWars. I'm Roger Stone. Some Democrats call me the Prince of Darkness, and I'm back filling in for my pal Alex Jones, a little kickstart from the talking heads there. We are, I think, compelled to point out to you that there is a rally June 10th in South Florida. This is an anti-fake news rally, which is at 3401 Hallandale Boulevard. It's a protest of the attempts to censor the internet. It is a protest of the biased coverage of Donald Trump. It's at the television station WPLG in Hallandale Beach, actually Pembroke Beach, I believe. And it is vital that if you live in South Florida, you show up and be heard. This is going to be a patriotic rally. The congressional candidate, Carla Spalding, will be speaking. I will be speaking. This is at 11 o'clock at 3401 Hallandale Beach Boulevard. So join us there. I also want to yet again tell you, if you have not seen the Netflix documentary, Get Me, Roger Stone, I strongly recommend it to you when you consider it was made by a bunch of left-wing, hippie, pinko, beatnik, globalist, Williamsburg living leftist scum. They actually did a pretty good job. So I commend that to you. Once again, if you want to help the fight for freedom and give us the assist we need at InfoWars, I recommend to you to go to the InfoWars store now and buy your copy of The Making of the President 2016. This is an insider's account of how the alternative conservative media, with InfoWars in the forefront, blazed the trail that elected Donald Trump, and how alternative media broke the back of the mainstream media monopoly on the dissemination of political information. Only by having a vibrant and robust alternative media can we continue the fight for freedom. So, folks, you can go to the InfoWars store.com. You can get your copy of The Making of the President 2016. Or you can grab one of the First Amendment-oriented T-shirts. You become a walking billboard for freedom, whether it is the iconic Bill Clinton rape T-shirt, whether it is the Trump-Pence 2020 T-shirt, or whether it is the Hillary for Prison 2017 T-shirts. These T-shirts are going to end up in the Smithsonian, folks. When they're gone, they're gone. Your grandchildren will ask you why you didn't get one and pass it down. In normal places in America, when you wear these, you will find like-minded souls. You will find others who want to make America great, who are ready to stand up to the globalists, who are ready to support us here at InfoWars. So get your T-shirts. While you're there, the non-fluoride Super Blue toothpaste is hard to keep in stock because, frankly, it's so good. I've used all the whitening toothpaste, as have the folks in my family. Support the fight for freedom. Get this fine product. God bless you. We are on the verge of a massive victory. We will turn back those who would impeach our president and attempt to do what they couldn't do at the ballot box, defeat Donald Trump with fake rumors and innuendo and non-facts about Russian collusion. I'm Roger Stone. Victory or death.